All right, I'm back. Roasted cauliflower. So I have a whole head of cauliflower right here. Part of it I cut up, so you want little bite-sized pieces. So when it cooks down, it's gonna be more bite-sized than this. So this is about the size you want it to be. I have big hands, so. And then you're gonna need a bowl. So to toss it into a bowl. One head of cauliflower will feed 2 to 3 people. It's crazy. So when you're cutting cauliflower, so I cut right through the stem. So remember holding your knife, 2 fingers and a thumb, 3 fingers tucked behind, 2 fingers right up against that bolster. I cut right through the core of the cauliflower, and then when my knife's on the board, I kind of twist it out like that to pull those apart. And then I'm just gonna go down that core like that and pull off about that much of the core, and that's gonna go into my compost bowl. And then you can use your hands to break up the little pieces, or you can use the tip of your knife to go through those little cores, and before you hit the florets, just kind of break it apart. That's how I like to do it. Makes it a little bit easier. Don't pull off all, see, I'm just using the tip of my knife and kind of twisting it at the end. Don't pull off all the stems. The stems have a lot of sugar in them, so don't throw them away. They taste really good, actually. So I'm gonna throw those all in there, go down the core just like I did before, so like that, and then pull off any of the larger pieces. It's kind of hard to break these bigger ones up sometimes, so you might need the tip of your knife to do that. So with roasted cauliflower, I have my oven set at 375 to 400, depending on how hot your oven is. My oven is really hot here. At home, I do it at 400, because I like the browning on the outside, but I still like it to have the toothiness of cauliflower. It tastes like a vegetable still. So I'm just gonna break these up into pieces, and then I'm gonna toss it in some oil with some salt and pepper. So I just want it lightly coated in oil. You can do any oil with this. I like grapeseed oil all across the board for stuff like this, but it's up to you guys. Whatever you have at home will be fine. Coconut oil might be kind of weird, but up to you. So just a drizzle of oil just to coat. And then I have a cookie sheet with parchment paper here and some salt. And if you like pepper, do pepper. So I just want it lightly coated in the oil. It's just like that, so a nice light coating. And then I'm gonna pinch some salt in. Pinch, pinch. I'm gonna do 3 good pinches of salt. And then I'm just gonna put it out onto a tray. So it's flat like that. So a sheet tray looks so it's flat like that. Remember, if you use parchment paper, it's a little less to clean up in the end. And then I'm gonna put it in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. And then we'll finish it once it comes out of the oven. Okay guys, so this is what the roasted cauliflower will look like when it comes out of the oven. So you want slight caramelization around the outside, but you still want it to retain its shape. So it still looks like cauliflower, and it'll still taste like cauliflower. It's pretty soft, so I'm gonna throw it into a bowl. You guys can add things to it. So there's optional things that you can add to it that are on the recipe. I'm gonna add a little bit of mustard. So mustard, remember mustard's acidity, so it'll bring out and separate out all the flavors. So I'm gonna add like a teaspoon of mustard. I'm gonna add some dried cranberries for sweetness, just a little handful. And then I found some pine nuts that I toasted. I'm gonna add those to it too. So pine nuts will add some umami. Just like that. And you're ready to go. Thank you. In the oven. Okay. Doing blanching, shocking, and sautéing green beans. So for your guys' green beans, you're gonna cut off, it's like 3 to 4 cups will serve like 3 to 4 people. So you want to take your green beans and you want to cut off the ends. You just want to trim off the ends, just like this, boop, boop. And then you can choose, I like to cut mine in half, but that's up to you guys. So you want to cut off, if you get like a weird banky green bean like that, just cut off that piece. Anything that you wouldn't eat, don't serve to your family. So just trim that off. I already have my garlic chopped up here. I'm going to remind you guys how to do that again. But once you get them all cut, all the ends cut up, you can cut the bigger ones in half like this and make them all a little bit more appropriate size-wise for eating. That you can do a few at a time. Don't go crazy. If it feels uncomfortable, then it's probably unsafe. Remember holding your knife, 2 fingers and a thumb, 3 fingers pinched behind. Cut them in half. Okay, so I already have some green beans in the water. So you want to get a pot of water going, about 3 quarts of water. You can see the size of my pot there in comparison to the size of my hand. This is a 4-quart pan. Any size pan will work. You just don't want to overload it with beans. You want to get it up to a boil and add, so this is the blanching part. So you're going to add your green beans to it, and you're going to cook your green beans anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. I like my green beans to where they still have a little bit of tooth to them. So after a minute, I'm going to pull them, and I'm going to pull them, and I'm going to put them into ice water, and that's going to shock them. So this is starting the cooking process, and this is stopping it. So this is a good one for like Thanksgiving. When you have a bunch of things to do, you can start this and then finish it right before people get there. Okay, so I have all my beans out of there, and I'm going to drop the other ones in the water. So when you guys, and this should be about, should be ice water, less ice, more water. So when you guys drop your beans in the water, it's just like when we were pan frying. You want to get as close to the water as possible and then drop them. You don't want to hold your hands over the water because you'll get a steam burn, but don't drop them from up here and not expect things to happen. So get them close and drop them, and then set a timer for 1 to 3 minutes. So these ones are shocked and they're getting cold, stopping the cooking process. So starting the cooking process, stopping the cooking process. For your garlic, remember you're gonna cut off this little nub end. You're gonna take your knife, blade facing towards the board, smack it, take out all that finals frustration on it. You should have a little compost bowl. I had to have a little compost pile. And then you're gonna mince up your garlic. So for 3 to 4 cups of green beans, you can do 3 to 4 cloves of garlic if you want to. Depends on how much your family likes garlic. These ones are gonna be like Vampire Slayer because I have so much garlic here, but that's okay. So mince up your garlic pretty fine. We're not gonna have it in the pan for very long, so we want it to be really minced up so we get it cooked. I don't really love raw garlic, and a lot of people's bodies can't process raw garlic, so let's mince it up really fine. I also have some soy sauce ready to go here, and then a pat of butter. So I have all my mise en place ready to go, and that's what I want you guys to do as well. So it's been a minute. I'm gonna take my green beans out. I'm actually gonna borrow some of this water because my water is more icy than watery. So get all my beans in there, and then I'm gonna ditch this pot of water and switch it out for a saute pan. So make sure all those beans are cooling down, getting cold. Ditch this. And I'm gonna switch to a saute pan. So I have a little bit of oil in a saute pan, so just enough to coat the bottom. I use grapeseed oil, you can use canola oil, vegetable oil. You can use olive oil in this one. Just be really careful because remember it smokes a lot faster, so don't turn it up crazy high. But sauteing is high heat, minimal amount of fat. So just watch what you're doing. But if that's what you have to work with, that's what you have to work with. Okay, so for the green beans, you're gonna do the cold plunge. You're gonna pull out the green beans and you're gonna put them onto a cookie sheet or something flat with paper towels. So I'm at school, so we have the brown paper towels. Or even a dishcloth if you don't have paper towels in your home. So I'm going to get them onto here. my timer. And try to dry them off a bit because they're going into the high heat. We don't want it to splatter and get mad when the water hits the oil. Okay, so once they're dried off a bit, and if you have big ice cubes, get those out of there. So I have my saute pan. I have my saute pan on medium-high heat. I have a little bit of oil in there. I'm gonna wait for that to heat up before I add my green beans because I wanna get that initial sear on them and get a little bit of caramelization if I can. If you're working with a saute pan that is, you know, this big, you're not gonna do all your green beans. I have a lot of surface area here, so I'm not afraid to do all my green beans, but if you don't have enough surface area for the green beans to coat the bottom of the pan, then you need to do it in 2 batches. So I can see that my oil is starting to get hot. So I'm gonna add in my green beans. So you guys can use like a rubber spatula or a wooden spoon, or you can practice your sautéing. Just be mindful of what's around you and who's around you. Don't start sautéing a bunch of stuff if you have a dog or a sibling or a parent nearby that could catch a hot green bean to the foot. So I have those in there and I'm gonna move them around. So remember, you wanna move them around. So whether you're shaking the pan like this, whether you have a spoon like that, or whether you're sautéing. So sautéing, you would push them down to the end of the pan and flip it over, just like that, okay? And that just takes practice. And remember, you can practice at home if you have a sauté pan and just do like dry cereal in there and practice that motion. So up and back like that. Dry cereal, you can do it with a piece of bread. We did that all the time at OCI. It's a little harder with a piece of bread, trying to flip that piece of bread in the pan, but it's less messy. So I'm gonna saute these just for a few minutes till I see a little bit of brown on them. And then I'm gonna add in my soy sauce and garlic. If you have gluten-free people at home, you can do tamari. Tamari is gluten-free. You can also, if you don't like soy sauce, you can do like some white wine is really nice. Some sherry, like some dry sherry is really nice. You could try like apple juice, apple cider would be really good. You can play with liquids if you don't like soy sauce. People usually like the soy sauce because it has some sugar in it and it will caramelize. So let those saute for a few minutes and then you're gonna add the soy sauce. I believe in the recipe it calls for 1 ounce of soy sauce. So the soy sauce, once it starts cooking, it's gonna start steaming those vegetables and cooking them. And notice I haven't added my garlic yet. So just like we talked about a couple times already, garlic will burn if you get it in the pan too soon. So I add my garlic at the very end. And I think when you start looking at recipes, they're having you add garlic in the beginning. Just use your brains and remember what I said. It'll just work out better for you, and then all your work's not gonna be burnt. Okay, so it's starting to steam in there. So all this steam that's coming off is the water reducing, or the soy sauce reducing down. So I want it to kind of reduce to almost a syrup, but not quite a syrup. So I'm just watching it to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. This is the point where you could start tasting your beans to see if you like the doneness on them. I know by looking at them that I like the doneness, so I'm gonna add all this garlic. And then my pat of butter. So the recipe calls for a pat of butter. A pat of butter is about a tablespoon, so just a little pat of butter. And the butter is just gonna add a little bit of flavor at the end. If you're using soy sauce, you're probably not gonna need a whole lot of salt added to it because soy sauce is really salty, but that is it. So you can kind of move it around, saute it, and then at this point, I know I like the way my beans are looking and the crunch on them, so I'm gonna turn off the heat and let that butter just melt in there, and then serve immediately. So blanch into hot water, shock into ice water, dry off onto paper towels, saute pan with a little bit of oil or fat, not butter because butter will burn. Once it gets hot, add in your dried off green beans, saute till you like the doneness of your green beans and taste them as you're going. And then you're gonna add in the garlic, soy sauce, and butter.